But we begin this hour with the next steps of Queen Elizabeth II's final journey.
The Queen's coffin will arrive today in London, where the public is already lined up by perhaps up to 1 million people to bid her farewell. The coffin left Edinburgh, Scotland, after spending 24 hours there. Mourners had lined up by the thousands to get the chance to pay their respects. Now, once in London, the Queen will lie in state in Westminster Hall for 4 days, starting tomorrow. Earlier, King Charles III was in Northern Ireland, where he pledged his service to the region despite historic tensions with mainland Britain.
At the very beginning of her life of service, the Queen made a pledge to dedicate herself to her country and her people. Now, with that shining example before me, and with God's help, I take up my new duties resolved to seek the welfare of all the inhabitants of Northern Ireland.
Taking in every moment from this historic series of events to honor the Queen is Lana Zak in London. Lana, what is the feeling on the ground now that you're there and now that the Queen's coffin is about to arrive?
Yeah, that's right. Lilia and Errol, it's good to be with you. She'll be arriving here any moment. And actually, just a little bit ago, the King arrived back here in London. As you noted, he was in Northern Ireland earlier. And I'd say it was just about 5 minutes ago that he came back into Buckingham Palace. You can see the video of it happening right there. They changed the flag from the British Jack to the Royal Standard, which you can now see above Buckingham Palace. And just when he was about to turn that corner there, I don't want to brag or anything, but you know the King just waved at me.
Oh, obviously. I saw the eye contact, Lana. What? That was to you? I knew it.
I waved at him. He waved at me. There may have been, 1,000 of other people here in front of the palace, but we made eye contact.
We'll take it.
But it's kind of a sense of the energy, I guess, people feel outside Buckingham Palace, seeing all of this happening and feeling like they are a part of it, like even yourself there, Lana. So it does speak to what it's like to be where you are.
Absolutely. And when you consider that Queen Elizabeth reigned for 70 years, most everybody that I've encountered have only known Queen Elizabeth as the sovereign. And so this is a moment in history, whether you're a royalist or an American or any other category, you can imagine, where you recognize that this is significant. And it is a privilege, certainly, to be here. And I'm feeling that both from the journalists who are all assembled in this area to the people who continue to pile into the park, bringing their remembrances, their marmalade sandwiches, which the Parks Department has said, please stop bringing that because the animals are maybe getting a little too wired off of all that marmalade.
Well, they need to eat.
The flowers. If our viewers are wondering what's behind marmalade sandwiches, there was a very famous moment where Paddington Bear, another famous Londoner, met with the Queen, and the two of them had tea together, and they talked about Paddington keeping his marmalade sandwiches under his hat, and the Queen, who is always famous for bringing her handbag with her, carrying her marmalade sandwiches in her purse. So it also goes to that joy that she inspired, the laughs that people had alongside their Queen. So in this moment, as we are preparing for her to return, the feeling here is really positive. It's happy. And even as people are mourning and remembering the Queen, it is with a smile. It is for appreciation for her service and a life really well lived.
And Lana, we spoke
Lana,
about this with our royal guest last hour. There was a heckler in Scotland, not toward the Queen, but toward Prince Andrew. It was dealt with quite swiftly. It does speak to the fact that not all Brits feel as warmly toward the rest of the royal family as they did toward the late Queen. Has anything been communicated where you are about the potential for other hecklers and other possible disturbances?
And I'm curious how they're reacting to the King, too. I mean, are they embracing him with the same kind of enthusiasm? Were they excited when he drove by?
People were very excited when he drove by. And obviously, we are outside of Buckingham Palace. The people here are overwhelmingly going to be excited to see the King. This is what they arrived here for, that and to pay their respects to the Queen. But when you look at her public approval ratings, they were 81%. That means there were 19% of people here who didn't think positively of the Queen. Still, those are exceptional public approval ratings. There is no politician back home in the United States that could even approach public approval ratings like that. There's bound to be hecklers. Certainly, we saw the police come through. They've been doing sweeps. We've been seeing helicopters overhead. They're taking the necessary security measures, but still, there is a belief in freedom of speech. Though there is a feeling right now that this is a moment to celebrate the late monarch and to celebrate a person who really stayed out of the political fray for the most part. And so I don't expect that there will be a lot of political heckling. And certainly when you're talking about Prince Andrew, it's a very different situation, as you alluded to, Lilia, than the Queen.
Yeah, that's right. There was also a sign outside, someone holding saying, "Not my king," a jab toward King Charles III, himself nowhere near as popular as the Queen.
Right. Also
because the Queen went to great lengths to not express her opinion, not express her views on anything. That allows you to kind of occupy this sense of iconic status in people's minds.
And not star in any kind of scandal. In fact, living a life away, staying away and trying to keep her family away from scandal despite her best efforts. Of course, one of the biggest of the last decades was starred by her son, the new king.
Right. And one other interesting thing that you might appreciate, when I was looking into the public approval ratings of the various members of the royal family, the Queen far and away had it. But then the next most popular royal here is Prince William. And it's interesting that that as King Charles is now ascending to the throne, he's curating his son, but he was actually Prince Harry was higher than his father. And these public approval ratings,
that's what I figured.
They were taken back in May, so that might change now. Public approval, certainly with a seismic event like this, might change, and it also may have a temporary boost that might abate a little bit. But we'll wait to see. Right now, from the people I've spoken with, there is a willingness to accept the new king and root for the best for him. And we'll have to see how he performs in that role. Yeah, each royal bringing their own personal baggage to their new elevated roles. Harry out of the royal family, William now Prince of Wales. So it will be interesting to see how all of this evolves in the hours and days ahead. Lana Zak, we know you'll be right there. We'll connect with you very soon. Right here. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.